The Galactic Council chamber hung in silence, a vast ring of light and glass floating above a dead star. Hundreds of species were present, watching the same image projected in the air before them. The Sol system. Humanity's home. Surrounded. Alien war fleets filled the screen from edge to edge. Thousands of ships, sharp and elegant, ancient and cruel. They had come from every major power in the galaxy. Not as allies. Not as negotiators. They had come as executioners. Earth was quiet. No defensive lines surged forward. No grand formations rose to meet the invaders. Only a thin ring of human satellites drifted in place, outdated and powerless. To the Council it looked like the end. Another young species about to be erased for growing too fast, thinking too freely, refusing to kneel. Many Council members felt relief. Humanity had been unpredictable, emotional, dangerous in strange ways. Ending them now felt necessary. Then something moved. Deep within Earth's orbit, a single human vessel began to rise. At first, the alien observers laughed. The ship was massive but crude, its hull dark and scarred, its shape blunt instead of elegant. It did not match any known human warship class. It looked old, heavy, slow. One ship against an armada. The Council dismissed it as a final gesture of pride, a symbolic death. But as the vessel cleared Earth's shadow, the laughter began to fade. Sensors across dozens of fleets started to report errors. Power spikes appeared where there should have been none. Gravitational readings twisted into impossible values. Space around the human ship bent slightly like glass under pressure. The ship did not fire. It did not broadcast a threat. It did not even accelerate quickly. It simply kept rising, calm and steady, as if the enemy fleets were not there at all. Alien admirals ordered scans. The results made no sense. The mass readings were wrong. The energy reserves were beyond safe limits. Internal structure seemed layered, as if the ship was far larger on the inside than its hull allowed. Whispers spread through the Council chamber. Fear followed close behind. The human ship reached a point between Earth and the enemy line and stopped. Total silence fell across open space. Then the human transmission began. A single voice, steady and clear, echoed across every channel. It did not shout. It did not beg. This is the United Earth Defense Authority. You are witnessing a Hurricane-class battleship. The word meant nothing to the galaxy. But the tone did. Several alien commanders demanded clarification. Others ordered weapons to lock on target. Energy cores across the fleets began to glow as shields rose and cannons charged. The Hurricane class did not respond. Instead, the space around it darkened. Stars behind the ship seemed to dim as if their light was being swallowed. Instruments screamed warnings as gravity wells formed where none should exist. Smaller alien ships began to drift off course, pulled slightly toward the human vessel no matter how much thrust they applied. Panic rippled through the armada. The Council demanded action. A senior admiral, his species known for its long history of conquest, gave the order to test the human ship's defenses. Just a single shot. Controlled. Precise. A cruiser broke formation and fired. The energy beam crossed the void in less than a second. It never reached the target. Halfway through space the beam bent. It curved like light through water, then collapsed inward and vanished. The alien cruiser's sensors failed at the same moment. Its hull began to fold in on itself, crushed by an invisible force. There was no explosion. No debris. One moment it existed. The next it did not. The Council chamber erupted. Fear replaced arrogance. Shouts replaced laughter. Species that had ruled stars for millennia stared at the empty space where one of their ships had been. The Hurricane class still did not fire. The human voice returned unchanged. This vessel is not attacking you, it said. It is stabilizing the area. Stabilizing. The word sent a chill through every listener. More data poured in. The ship was not using weapons in the known sense. It was controlling local physics. Gravity. Energy flow. Spatial tension. Things the galaxy understood only in theory. Humanity had gone further. The Council demanded surrender. They threatened planetary bombardment. They promised mercy if Earth stood down. The human response came after a brief pause. We expected this day, the voice said. For a long time we believed we would not survive it. The Hurricane class moved forward. Not fast. Not aggressively. Just enough. Entire sections of the alien fleet were forced back as if pushed by an unseen wall. Ships collided. Formations broke. Commanders lost control of their own vessels as navigation systems failed one by one. Still, no weapons fire from the human ship. The council began to understand. This was not desperation. This was preparation. Behind the Hurricane class, Earth remained quiet. No cheering signals. No mass launches. Humanity had placed everything on one move. One reveal. And it was working. The alien armada hesitated. Orders conflicted. Retreat and advance commands overlapped. The longer they stayed, the worse the readings became. Space itself felt hostile near the human ship. The human voice spoke one final time. "You came to end us," it said. "We came to show you why that was a mistake." The transmission cut. The Hurricane class held position, a dark shape against the stars, bending the universe around it with silent force. Across the galaxy, for the first time in recorded history, the watching powers felt the same thought form in their minds. Humanity had not been weak. Humanity had been waiting. And on that day, as the galaxy watched in fear and disbelief, the balance of power began to break. The alien armada did not retreat. Not yet. Fear had spread, but pride still held them in place. Empires that had burned worlds could not accept that a single human ship had stopped them without firing a weapon. Orders echoed through fractured command channels. Shields were pushed to maximum. Backup systems came online. Ancient protocols meant for God-level threats were activated for the first time in recorded history. The Hurricane class remained still. From the Galactic Council chamber, analysts worked in panic. Every scan they ran contradicted the last. The ship's power output was rising, yet no heat signatures appeared. Its core did not behave like a reactor. It behaved like a gravity well, dense and quiet, pulling equations apart. One council scientist finally spoke the truth aloud. "That ship is not generating power," she said. "It is anchoring itself to space." The room fell silent. To anchor space itself was impossible. At least it had always been assumed so. Space was the stage, not the actor. But the human ship treated it like material, something to be shaped and held. As if to prove the point, the Hurricane class began to change. Its outer hull shifted. Plates that looked solid slowly separated, rotating with careful precision. Deep within the ship, layers unfolded, revealing structures far thicker than a normal hull allowed. The vessel was not opening weapons ports. It was revealing depth. The ship was bigger than it looked. Much bigger. Alien sensors struggled to adjust as the internal mass readings tripled, then quadrupled. Some instruments simply shut down, unable to process the data. Others showed impossible results, suggesting the ship existed partly outside normal dimensions. A low vibration passed through nearby space. Not a sound, but a pressure like the universe taking a deep breath. Several smaller alien ships lost power completely. They drifted, helpless, their crews trapped in silence. The Hurricane class did not touch them. It did not need to. The human voice returned, calm as before. "You are detecting the outer frame only," it said. This vessel was designed to operate under collapse conditions. No one on the council asked what that meant. They already feared the answer. One alien admiral, desperate to regain control, ordered a coordinated attack from long range. Hundreds of ships fired at once, releasing beams, missiles, and kinetic weapons meant to overwhelm planetary defenses. The galaxy watched. The weapons entered the field around the Hurricane class and slowed. Missiles twisted off course. Energy beams stretched thin, their power bleeding away into nothing. Some weapons reversed direction entirely, pulled back toward their owners by warped gravity. Then the field tightened. Space folded inward for a brief moment. Not violently. Precisely. Every incoming attack vanished. No explosion followed. No shockwave. It was as if the weapons had never existed. A wave of terror swept through the armada. The Hurricane class advanced again. This time the movement was clearer. The ship glided forward, and with each meter the invisible pressure increased. Alien capital ships creaked under forces they were never built to resist. Hulls cracked. Internal gravity failed. Crews were thrown against bulkheads as systems shut down without warning. The human ship still did not fire. From Earth, a second transmission spread across open channels. This one was not a warning. It was an explanation. For most of our history, the human voice said, "We believed we were alone. When we learned we were not, we prepared for one outcome above all others. Extinction." Images followed the words. Human cities buried deep underground. Shipyards hidden inside asteroids. Generations of quiet research, sacrifice, and loss. Humanity had not raced to join the galaxy. It had dug in and learned how to survive it. "We do not match your fleet's ship for ship," the voice continued. "We do not need to." The Hurricane class slowed and stopped again. A massive alien dreadnought near the front line suddenly lost all thrust. Its engines screamed as gravity reversed around it. The ship was lifted, slowly, helplessly, dragged toward the human vessel like a leaf in a storm. The council begged the human ship to stop. Promises were made. Treaties were offered. Threats followed when those failed. The Hurricane class did not respond. The dreadnought reached a point directly in front of the human ship and froze in place. For several seconds nothing happened. Then the alien vessel began to compress. Not crushed violently but folded inward, layer by layer, until its enormous mass was reduced to a silent, glowing point. That point flickered once and vanished. No debris. No survivors. Across the galaxy, every watching species understood the message. Humanity could erase fleets without a battle. The Council ordered an immediate ceasefire. Ships at the edges of the Armada began to pull back. Others followed, their commanders no longer waiting for approval. Survival instincts overpowered orders. The Hurricane class finally powered down part of its field. Gravity returned to normal for the ships still intact. Systems rebooted. Crews gasped as control returned. The human voice spoke one last time in the encounter. "This ship is not our strongest weapon," it said. "It is our answer to being hunted." Silence followed. The Hurricane class turned slightly, positioning itself between Earth and the retreating fleets. It did not pursue. It did not threaten further. It stood guard. As the alien armada withdrew in disorder, the Galactic Council faced a truth it could not escape. Humanity had not revealed everything. They had revealed just enough. And somewhere deep in human space, other Hurricane-class vessels waited, unseen, unmoving, built for a future where the galaxy had already decided to end them. The galaxy had come to destroy Earth. Instead it had learned fear. And the lesson was only beginning. The alien fleets did not fully retreat. Not all of them. As the main armada pulled back from Earth's orbit, several hidden task groups remained behind, drifting in the dark beyond sensor range. Their commanders had watched the same feeds as everyone else. They had felt the same fear. But fear did not erase ambition. To them, the Hurricane class was not a warning. It was a prize. In the Galactic Council chamber, emergency sessions collapsed into chaos. Old alliances accused one another of weakness. Younger species demanded protection. Ancient powers argued that humanity's display had been exaggerated, that no single ship could truly dominate the galaxy. The Council needed certainty. Proof. And so, without a unified vote, permission was quietly given. A covert operation. Far from Earth, a cluster of stealth vessels activated drives forbidden by most treaties. Their hulls bent light. Their emissions were masked. They slipped through the outer edge of the Sol system, moving slow and careful, aiming not at Earth, but at the Hurricane class itself. The human ship remained motionless. From a distance, it looked almost peaceful, a dark shape resting against the stars. Its gravity field was minimal now, contained and precise. To the watching spies, it appeared dormant. They mistook restraint for exhaustion. As the stealth group approached, their sensors finally pierced the outer layers of the ship's field. What they saw made no sense. The Hurricane class had no single core. Instead, it contained dozens of nested structures, each rotating in opposing directions, each feeding into the others through forces that had no names. One alien commander whispered that the ship looked alive. Another ordered silence and continued the mission. They launched probes. The probes vanished the moment they crossed the ship's boundary. No data returned. No debris. Nothing. The commanders debated pulling back, but ambition won. If the humans could control space, then capturing the ship meant mastering that power. The decision was made. Boarding pods launched. They were advanced constructs, shielded against radiation, gravity shifts, and energy surges. They slipped through the ship's outer field with difficulty, slowed but not stopped. For the first time since its arrival, something touched the Hurricane class. Deep within the human vessel, systems reacted. The ship did not sound alarms. It did not escalate power. It simply adjusted. Inside the boarding pods, alien soldiers prepared for resistance. They expected corridors, bulkheads, airlocks. What they found instead was darkness and silence. Their pods opened into vast empty spaces, far larger than the ship's external size allowed. The walls were smooth and curved, marked with faint moving patterns that shifted like flowing water. Gravity changed direction without warning. Several soldiers were pulled upward, then sideways, then pinned gently against invisible planes. Their weapons powered down. Their suits lost internal pressure control. Panic spread through the boarding teams as they realized they were being separated, not by force but by environment. The Hurricane class was not defending itself. It was studying them. On the bridge of the human ship, the crew remained calm. They had trained for this. The ship's intelligence systems mapped every intruder, tracked every heartbeat, every neural spike of fear. The aliens were not enemies here. They were data. The human commander authorized a limited response. The internal space shifted again. Walls unfolded into pathways that led the intruders forward, guiding them deeper. Some soldiers followed, believing they were advancing. Others resisted, only to find the space itself moving them regardless of their efforts. At the center of the ship, the aliens reached a chamber that seemed to have no floor. They floated, held in place by unseen forces. In front of them, light gathered and shaped itself into a human figure. Not physical. A projection. It spoke without sound, directly into their minds. "You should not be here," it said. The alien commander demanded surrender. He threatened retaliation. He promised annihilation. The projection did not react. "This vessel was designed under the assumption that boarding would occur," it replied. "You are not the first to try." With a single shift in gravity, the chamber compressed. Not enough to kill. Enough to make a point. The aliens screamed as pressure closed in, their armor bending, their thoughts collapsing into fear. Then it stopped. The projection changed. Images filled their minds. Human history. Wars fought with sticks and fire. Cities burned. Planets scarred by their own mistakes. Humanity's long fear of extinction. The slow realization that the galaxy would not be kind. "We learned early," the voice said, "that survival favors those who plan for the worst." The boarding teams were released. Not freed. Ejected. One by one, their pods were pushed back into space, intact but powerless, drifting away from the Hurricane class. Their crews lived, but their mission was over. Their data cores were wiped clean. The hidden task groups panicked and fled. The Hurricane class did not pursue. Instead, something else happened. Across the Sol system, dormant human platforms activated. Satellites long dismissed as debris shifted into formation. Deep space arrays powered on. Signals spread outward, not as a threat, but as an announcement. Humanity was no longer hiding. The Galactic Council received the transmission moments later. "You attempted to take what you did not understand," the human voice said. "That was your first mistake." Behind the words, new images appeared. Dozens of signatures across human space. Not all as large as the Hurricane class. Some smaller. Some stranger. All controlled by the same principles. The Council finally grasped the truth. The Hurricane class was not a flagship. It was a gatekeeper. The human ship near Earth adjusted its position slightly, aligning itself with distant points only it could see. Space rippled faintly in response, like water disturbed by something massive moving below the surface. The galaxy held its breath. Humanity had shown restraint. Humanity had shown mercy. But now, after the first mistake, the galaxy understood something far more dangerous. If pushed again, humans would not simply defend their world. They would redefine the battlefield. And next time they would not wait to be found. The galaxy did not sleep after the failed boarding. Across thousands of systems, emergency councils met in secret. Old enemies shared data they had once killed to protect. Every sensor log, every corrupted scan, every fragment of fear was studied again and again. The conclusion was the same everywhere. Humanity had prepared for this moment far longer than anyone imagined. The Galactic Council finally understood that the Hurricane class was not an experiment rushed into service. It carried no signs of desperation. No flaws from haste. Every system worked with calm precision, as if it had been tested 1,000 times before ever facing an enemy. And that terrified them. In hidden archives, long-forgotten records were pulled from storage. Early reports from first contact scouts. Trade logs. Cultural studies. The pattern was suddenly clear. Humans had always asked strange questions. Not about weapons or territory, but about collapse. About extinction events. About what survived when stars died and empires fell. They had never trusted peace to last. On Earth, far below the silent guardian in orbit, humanity remained calm. Cities did not celebrate. Fleets did not launch. Instead, deep facilities opened that had been sealed for centuries. Command centers buried under mountains and oceans came fully online. Not in panic, but in readiness. The Hurricane class was only one piece. In the void beyond Sol, space shifted again. Not violently. Quietly. Invisible corridors formed, detectable only by those who knew what to look for. Human vessels began to move through them, not appearing from jump points, but sliding into existence as if space itself had made room. Alien sensors barely noticed until it was too late. A reconnaissance fleet from a distant empire vanished near the edge of human-controlled space. No battle was recorded. No distress call sent. The ships simply stopped existing in every database at the same moment. The Galactic Council demanded answers. Humanity responded with silence. Inside the council chamber, fear turned inward. Accusations flew. Who had authorized the boarding attempt? Who had allowed secret task groups to remain behind? Blame fractured the unity that had once made the council powerful. Several member species announced immediate withdrawal. Others fortified their borders. A few, desperate and arrogant, began designing weapons meant to counter gravity itself. They were already behind. On the Hurricane class, the human crew watched it all unfold through layers of analysis and prediction. The ship's intelligence systems modeled millions of futures, each one shaped by a single truth. The galaxy was afraid. Fear made enemies reckless. The commander approved the next phase. Far from Sol, in a system long considered empty, a human installation powered up. It was ancient by human standards, built before Earth had known it was not alone. At its center was a device that bent space not to destroy but to listen. The galaxy spoke through gravity. Every fleet movement, every shield test, every weapons charge sent ripples through space. Humans had learned to hear those ripples centuries ago. Now they listened to the entire galaxy at once. Patterns emerged. A coalition was forming. Not officially. Not openly. But in secret, several major powers pooled resources and data. Their goal was simple. If the Hurricane class could not be destroyed, it could be isolated. Cut off. Trapped in a region of space and starved of influence. They underestimated one thing. Humans did not build single points of failure. As the coalition finalized its plan, human operatives were already inside their networks. Not as hackers in the traditional sense, but as echoes. Subtle distortions in data flow. Delays that felt like normal lag. Errors that looked like human mistakes. By the time the coalition launched its move, humanity had already rewritten the battlefield. A massive alien fleet jumped toward a strategic corridor near human space. The trap was elegant. They would collapse the corridor behind the Hurricane class, sealing it away from Earth and forcing humanity to choose between defense and isolation. The Hurricane class moved first. It did not rush to meet the fleet. Instead, it shifted its field in a way no one expected. Space around the alien formation became thick, heavy, difficult to move through. Not enough to stop them. Enough to slow them. Then the corridor failed. Not collapsed. Reversed. The alien fleet found itself emerging not near human space, but deep inside a region they had marked as impossible to navigate. Gravity twisted. Stars appeared in the wrong places. Time lagged between commands and response. The fleet was lost. Humanity had not blocked the trap. They had redirected it. The Council received the human message minutes later. "You are not facing a weapon system," the calm voice said. "You are facing a strategy." More images followed. Not of ships, but of timelines. Projections showing how long the coalition plan had existed. How long humans had known. How many outcomes had already been countered before the first order was given. The realization hit like a physical blow. Humans were not reacting. They were controlling escalation. Across the galaxy, smaller species began to make a choice. Some quietly sent messages to Earth. Not alliances. Not pleas. Simple acknowledgments of respect. Requests for neutrality under human protection. Humanity accepted none of them publicly. They did not need to. The Hurricane class adjusted its orbit slightly, aligning with unseen anchors spread across light years. Its field expanded, not aggressively but decisively. Regions of space once contested became stable, calm, unreachable by force. The galaxy's great powers finally understood the truth they had been avoiding. Humanity had not risen to challenge them. Humanity had risen to end the age where challenges like this were possible. The council chamber emptied as representatives withdrew to protect what they could. The idea of a united galaxy faded into memory. In its place grew a new understanding, slow and terrifying. The Hurricane class was still holding back. And every step humanity took showed just how carefully they had planned for the day the galaxy would turn against them. That day had come. And humanity was ready. Fear does not always lead to retreat. For some, it hardens into defiance. Deep within the fractured remains of the Galactic Council, a final coalition took shape. Not a public one. Not an alliance written into law. This was a pact made in shadows, between powers that had ruled for too long to accept a future where humanity stood above them. They called it a counterbalance initiative. Its goal was simple. If the Hurricane class controlled space through gravity, then the answer was not force but disruption. Break the rules beneath it. Tear the fabric it relied on. Collapse the battlefield itself. They chose a star. A young, unstable blue giant near a major human corridor. Its gravity was already volatile, its internal reactions near critical thresholds. Alien engineers believed that if they pushed it hard enough, they could force a controlled stellar event. Not a full supernova. Just enough chaos to tear open space across the region. Enough to kill a godship. The operation launched without warning. Massive alien constructs appeared around the star, feeding it energy, compressing its core, pushing it toward collapse. Shockwaves rolled outward. Space began to scream. Human listening arrays detected the change instantly. On the Hurricane class, alarms finally sounded. Not sharp or panicked, but deep and deliberate. The ship's intelligence ran millions of futures in seconds. Most ended in loss of life. Some ended in mutual destruction. One path stood apart. The commander authorized it. The Hurricane class moved. For the first time, it accelerated. The galaxy watched in disbelief as the massive vessel crossed distances that should have taken days and moments. It did not jump. It did not tear space open. It slid, carried by its own control of gravity, riding currents no one else could feel. As it approached the unstable star, the alien fleet guarding it opened fire with everything they had. Weapons designed to crack moons burned through space. Entire suns' worth of energy was thrown at the human ship. The Hurricane class did not slow. The weapons struck its field and vanished, absorbed, redirected, or unraveled into harmless light. The closer the ship came to the star, the calmer it seemed, as if chaos fed its stability. The alien commanders realized too late that they had misunderstood the nature of the ship. It did not fear collapse. It was built for it. The Hurricane class entered the star's gravity well. Every known law said it should have been torn apart. Instead, its field expanded, wrapping around the star itself. Gravity flattened. Pressure eased. The star's violent reactions slowed, then stabilized as if a giant hand had closed around its heart. The alien constructs feeding the star began to fail. Their systems overloaded, unable to handle the sudden change. One by one they shut down or tore themselves apart. The counterattack was unraveling. Desperate, the coalition commanders issued the final order. If they could not control the star, they would detonate it. A forced collapse. Mutual destruction. The Hurricane class responded instantly. Its field tightened. Space around the star folded inward, not collapsing, but locking. The star froze in a delicate balance, its energy contained, its fury held in check. Time itself seemed to slow near its surface. The detonation command failed. The alien fleet watched as their ultimate weapon was rendered harmless, trapped inside a cage of controlled gravity. The human transmission followed, broadcast across every channel. "You tried to turn nature into a weapon," the calm voice said. "We learned to turn weapons into nature." The Hurricane class released a narrow pulse. Not an attack. A correction. Gravity snapped back into place for everything except the alien fleet. Their ships, designed for normal space, suddenly found themselves in an environment that no longer obeyed familiar rules. Engines failed. Hulls twisted. Crews screamed as internal gravity inverted and folded. Entire capital ships collapsed into themselves, not destroyed but compacted into silent wrecks. The coalition fleet was erased in minutes. When it was over, the Hurricane class slowly released its hold on the star. The blue giant resumed its natural cycle, stable once more as if nothing had happened. The galaxy was stunned. This was not defense. This was dominance. Messages flooded toward Earth from every direction. Apologies. Denials. Attempts to blame rogue factions. Humanity did not respond. Instead, something far more unsettling occurred. Across multiple systems, human-controlled regions expanded. Not through invasion but through stabilization. Trade routes once plagued by piracy became calm. Border wars between alien powers simply stopped. Fleets entering these regions found their weapons inactive, their drives limited, their aggression impossible. Humanity had created zones where war could not exist. The Galactic Council officially dissolved hours later. Its authority, already shattered, finally collapsed under the weight of irrelevance. In its place, fear ruled. On the Hurricane class, the commander watched the galaxy adjust. The ship's intelligence reported a sharp decline in hostile projections. Not because enemies were gone, but because they were adapting to a new reality. One where force no longer guaranteed power. The human voice spoke again, this time not as a warning but as a statement of fact. "We will not hunt you," it said. "But we will not allow this to happen again." The message carried no threat. It did not need one. The failed counterattack marked the end of an era. The age of overwhelming fleets. The belief that size and numbers decided fate. All of it collapsed with the coalition's final gamble. The galaxy had tried its strongest move. It had failed. And now, as the Hurricane class returned to its silent watch, every civilization understood the truth that followed. Humanity had not just survived the galaxy's judgment. They had rendered it meaningless. After the failed counterattack, the galaxy went quiet in a way it never had before. No fleets advanced. No threats were spoken. Even the most aggressive empires withdrew their ships from human-adjacent space and shut down their weapons arrays. Trade routes rerouted themselves without protest. Borders that had burned for centuries cooled overnight. Silence spread faster than fear. From the Hurricane class, human systems measured the change. Hostile intent dropped across known space. Weapons tests ceased. Communication traffic shifted from command bursts to civilian flow. The galaxy was holding its breath. That was when humanity chose to speak. The transmission did not come from Earth alone. It came from everywhere humans had placed their anchors. Listening arrays, stabilization platforms, deep space relays. One message, carried by gravity itself, reached every system capable of understanding it. The human voice was different this time. It was not cold. It was not threatening. It was tired. "We did not seek this position," it said. "We did not plan to rule you." Images followed. Not of battles, but of warnings humanity had once sent and ignored. Early pleas for recognition. Attempts at equal trade. Requests for shared law. Each had been dismissed or delayed until the fleets came. "We learned that survival does not come from being trusted," the voice continued. "It comes from being ready." The Hurricane class remained in orbit above Earth, unmoving. But far beyond it, something else stirred. Human stabilization zones expanded again, slowly, carefully. Not into population centers. Not into sovereign systems. Only into empty corridors where fleets once gathered and wars once began. Space itself grew calm there, resistant to violence, heavy with enforced balance. Some alien leaders called it occupation. Others called it relief. Within human command, the debate had already begun. The Hurricane class was powerful, but it was not infinite. Every correction it made carried cost. Every stabilization required constant adjustment. The ship's intelligence warned of strain building across its anchors. Space could be shaped, but not forever, not without consequence. The commander knew this. That was why the message continued. "There are limits to what we can hold," the human voice said. "That is why this must end now." The galaxy listened. "You have seen what happens when extinction is chosen as policy," the voice said. "This is your chance to choose something else." Some species responded immediately. Formal declarations renouncing preemptive war. Agreements to dismantle extermination doctrines. Others stayed silent, unwilling to admit fault. Then a new signal appeared. It did not come from the Council. It did not match any known species. It carried no language, only structure. A gravity pattern so old and complex that even human systems struggled to interpret it. The Hurricane class reacted instantly. Fields tightened. Anchors aligned. For the first time since its reveal, the ship's power surged to near maximum. The signal repeated. Deep in the dark between galaxies, something was watching. Human analysts realized the truth with slow dread. The galaxy had never truly been alone. The wars, the councils, the cycles of extinction were not accidents. They were tests, observations, experiments left running for millions of years. The ancient watchers had noticed the disruption. Humanity had changed the pattern. The signal shifted, resolving into meaning at last. Not words but intent, curiosity, assessment, and a question. Could humans be controlled? The Hurricane class did not wait. It answered in the only language that mattered. Across a distant void, far beyond any inhabited system, space folded inward. Not violently. Precisely. A region the size of a solar system was stabilized into perfect equilibrium. No energy loss. No entropy drift. A closed, balanced structure that should not have been possible. Proof. The watchers responded at once. The signal sharpened, probing, testing the edges of human control. Stress rippled through the Hurricane class as anchors strained. The ship's intelligence warned that sustained contact at this level would cause irreversible damage. The commander made a decision. The human voice returned, steady despite the strain. "We are not your subjects," it said. and we are not your successors. The stabilized region was released. Space returned to normal. The message was clear. Humanity would not play the role assigned to them. The ancient signal withdrew. Not in defeat, in caution. Across the galaxy, the effect was immediate. Species that had once relied on the idea of higher powers, of inevitable cycles, felt something new take hold. Oh, the Hurricane class powered down slightly, shedding excess strain. Human zones remained but no longer expanded. The message had been sent not just to the galaxy but beyond it. On Earth, for the first time, people allowed themselves to breathe. Not in victory but in relief. They had stood their ground. They had drawn a line that even the unseen had chosen not to cross. The human voice concluded its message to the stars. We will stand watch, it said. Not as rulers, not as gods, but as a reminder. The transmission ended. In the quiet that followed, the galaxy began to change. Not through fear alone, but through understanding. Wars became harder to justify. Extermination plans became impossible to hide. Power was no longer measured only in fleets, but in restraint. The Hurricane class remained where it was, silent and patient. Humanity had delivered its message, and the universe had listened. The withdrawal of the ancient signal did not bring peace. It brought uncertainty. Across the galaxy, leaders stared at empty star charts where something vast had briefly touched reality and then vanished. No one knew if it would return. No one knew if humanity's warning had been enough. But everyone understood one thing with painful clarity. The old rules were gone. Empires that had thrived on fear found their foundations cracking. Their citizens had seen the transmissions. They had felt the silence that followed the Watcher's retreat. For the first time, extermination wars were no longer framed as destiny or necessity. They looked like what they had always been. Choices. In several core systems, protests erupted. Populations demanded withdrawal from aggressive doctrines. Military leaders who pushed back found their fleets sabotaged, not by enemies but by their own crews. The idea of provoking humanity again felt less like bravery and more like suicide. Yet not all resisted change. Some species adapted quickly. Smaller civilizations, long crushed between larger powers, began dismantling their weapons openly. They broadcast compliance not out of loyalty to humans, but out of a desire to survive in a new era. They understood that the Hurricane class did not protect weakness. It protected restraint. The Galactic Council attempted to reconvene. Only a third of its former members attended. The chamber felt smaller now, quieter. The air of authority that had once filled it was gone, replaced by tension and doubt. The delegates did not argue about policy or borders. They argued about relevance. What was a council in a galaxy where force no longer decided outcomes? As debates dragged on, news arrived that ended them. A major Imperial fleet, one of the largest ever assembled outside wartime, had powered down its weapons and withdrawn from all contested systems. No human ship had approached them. No threat had been issued. The fleet had simply stopped. Their public statement spread rapidly. We will not test humanity's restraint, it read. We choose survival. The effect was immediate. Other fleets followed. Border lines dissolved without battles. Wars that had lasted generations ended without treaties, because neither side dared continue. The human stabilization zones became reference points, not prisons. Regions where no one fired because no one could. Humanity watched it all with caution. On the Hurricane class, predictive models shifted again. Hostile projections fell to historic lows. Not because fear ruled everything but because calculation had changed. The galaxy was learning that aggression now carried consequences no empire could absorb. Still, danger remained. The ship's intelligence identified fractures forming beneath the surface. Black markets trading stolen human tech fragments. Fanatical cult movements worshipping the ancient watchers and condemning humanity as a disruption to cosmic order. Desperation always sought new forms. The commander authorized observation only. No strikes. No corrections. The message to the stars had been delivered. Now the galaxy had to choose what to do with it. On Earth, humanity faced its own reckoning. The Hurricane class was a shield but also a weight. Its constant stabilization strained not just systems but philosophy. For centuries, humans had feared extinction. Now they were the ones others feared. The line between guardian and ruler was thin and everyone knew it. Human leaders debated quietly. Some argued for expansion, for enforcing peace everywhere before the galaxy found a way around human control. Others warned that such a move would make them exactly what they had resisted. In the end, restraint won. The Hurricane class remained alone. No second ship joined it. No fleets followed. Humanity did not announce new doctrines or demand seats of power. Instead, they withdrew slightly, letting stabilization zones hold but not expand. They allowed the galaxy room to breathe. The response surprised everyone. Without pressure, smaller alliances began forming naturally. Trade replaced conquest where it made sense. Shared defense agreements focused on protection, not domination. Humanity was referenced often but rarely contacted. They had become a constant, a background truth. Then, years after the day the galaxy watched, something unexpected happened. A delegation arrived at the edge of human space. Not warships. Refuge vessels. They carried no weapons, no demands. Only civilians from multiple species fleeing an empire that had refused to change. That empire had collapsed inward, tearing itself apart when fear could no longer be pointed outward. The refugees requested sanctuary. Humanity faced the moment they had prepared for less than war. The Hurricane class adjusted its field, allowing the vessels safe passage. Earth opened limited corridors. 8 ships followed. Not as conquerors. As caretakers. The galaxy noticed. Not with fear this time. With understanding. The empire that had caused the refugee crisis dissolved within months. Without the ability to expand through violence, it consumed itself. Other aggressive powers saw the outcome and stepped back from the edge. The Galactic Council officially disbanded soon after. No declaration. No ceremony. Its halls were simply abandoned. In its place arose smaller forums, regional gatherings focused on survival rather than dominance. Humanity was invited. They declined. The Hurricane class remained above Earth, unchanged. Its presence no longer felt like a threat to most. It felt like a reminder. A line no one wanted to cross again. Across the galaxy, the phrase spread quietly, spoken in different languages but carrying the same meaning. Do not wake the storm. The galaxy had chosen survival. Not because humanity demanded it, but because humanity had proven that extinction was no longer the strongest option. And somewhere beyond the stars, unseen watchers continued to observe, no longer curious about whether humans could be controlled, but about what kind of future would grow in a universe where fear had finally met its limit. History did not mark the end of the crisis with a treaty. There was no single moment where the galaxy declared peace, no ceremony where banners were lowered and weapons laid down. Instead, change arrived quietly, carried by absence. No invasion fleets formed. No extermination votes were cast. The silence itself became the proof. Years passed. The Hurricane class remained in orbit above Earth, its dark mass steady against the stars. It did not patrol. It did not expand its zones. It simply existed, anchoring space in a way that made old ambitions feel heavy and outdated. Younger generations across the galaxy grew up knowing one simple truth. War was no longer easy. Empires that had once ruled by fear found themselves shrinking, not through conquest but through irrelevance. Their doctrines made no sense in a universe where force could be calmly undone. Some adapted. Others faded, their power dissolving into smaller, cooperative states. Trade flourished where battle once stood. Borders softened. Conflicts still happened, but they were brief, limited, and closely watched. No one wanted to be the civilization that forced humanity to act again. On Earth, humanity changed as well. The fear that had driven centuries of preparation slowly loosened its grip. Cities expanded upward instead of downward. Children learned about the Hurricane class not as a weapon, but as a reminder of why it had been built. Not to conquer the galaxy, but to survive it. The ship's crew rotated over the years, generations serving aboard the same silent guardian. They did not see themselves as heroes. They saw themselves as caretakers of a line that must never be crossed. Deep in human archives, one prediction remained active. Not of alien fleets or hostile councils, but of something else. The Watchers. The ancient presence that had stirred beyond the galaxy did not return. But humanity never assumed it was gone. Sensors continued to listen. Anchors continued to hum quietly in the background of space. Humans understood something the rest of the galaxy was still learning. Survival was not a single victory. It was a state that had to be maintained. One day, decades after the crisis, a new signal appeared. Not massive. Not threatening. Small. A probe, ancient in design, drifting into the outer edge of human-controlled space. It carried no weapons. No defenses. Only data, encoded in gravity patterns so subtle most species would have missed them entirely. The Hurricane class detected it instantly. The probe did not resist as it was drawn closer. Its data unfolded slowly, carefully, as if aware it was being examined. It contained records older than most stars. Observations of civilizations rising and falling. Patterns of self-destruction repeating across epochs. At the center of the data was a conclusion. Civilizations that reached a certain level of power always chose domination. Always. Until now. The message was not a threat. It was an acknowledgement. Humanity had broken the cycle. The Watchers had not intervened because they had been curious. They had intervened because they were uncertain. For the first time, a species had reached control over fundamental forces and chosen restraint instead of rule. The probe carried a final note, translated slowly and carefully. We will not interfere. Then it went dark. Human analysts debated the meaning for years. Some believed it was a test passed. Others believed it was a warning deferred. Humanity did not celebrate either interpretation. They archived the probe and returned their focus to the present. The galaxy continued to change. Stories spread among alien cultures, reshaped by time and fear into legend. Some said humans commanded storms trapped in metal hulls. Others claimed Earth could fold stars with a thought. A few insisted the Hurricane class was not a ship at all, but a living guardian born from humanity's collective will. Humans never corrected them. They did not need to. What mattered was not what the galaxy believed but what it did. And what it did was hesitate before choosing violence. In distant systems, children of species once locked in endless war studied history where humanity appeared not as conquerors, but as the point where the pattern broke. The moment the galaxy learned that extinction was no longer inevitable, the phrase endured. The day Earth deployed its Hurricane-class battleship, it was taught as a warning, as a lesson. As the moment the universe learned that intelligence paired with patience was more dangerous than any fleet, the Hurricane class remained in place long after it was needed. Not because the galaxy demanded it, because humanity remembered why it had been built. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of fear of disappearing quietly and without meaning. That fear no longer ruled them. Now it guided them. As stars burned on and civilizations rose under the shadow of a storm that never struck again, one truth settled into the fabric of the galaxy. Humanity did not conquer the stars. They taught them restraint. And on that day when Earth chose to reveal what it had become, everything changed. Not in fire, not in conquest, but in the simple, terrifying knowledge that someone, somewhere, was strong enough to end everything, and chose not to.